I'll seek you out, flay you alive.
Hey guys, Pogo here, and welcome to the next episode of BanManagement. In this episode, we are going to hook up our Bootstrap front end to our PHP backend. In the last episode, when we designed the website, we just filled in some sample values. Now we're going to have it actually retrieve from the database. Let's quickly take a look and see what it looks like right now. We have our nice header with a plus button, which will allow us to add or edit a ban. We have here the ID. Clicking on the ID will take you to a specific ban, and it'll give you the ability to edit the ban, which will make it fill in the information, or to delete a ban. And we're going to write in each of these three classes, we're going to add some PHP code to them to make it work with the database. Now, we'll go ahead and start with the index, and it's important to make sure that all of these files end in PHP. If they end in HTML, the PHP code will not run, and I believe it'll just display itself like regular HTML, which you definitely don't want. So make sure you have the .php so that the PHP interpreter knows to run. So we will go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do, and of course I'm assuming that you know PHP already, but I have a great series if you don't. We will go ahead and first we need to require the file api/api.php. So we're going to require this file, which I'm not going to open because it has my password in it, but we're going to require this api.php file so that we can access the functions defined inside of it, because we're going to use them in here. Okay. So right here, this part is what we want to change, and we want to make that into whatever the database says. I'm going to leave those there just as templates so we can, kind of copy it, but the first thing we're going to do is we're obviously going to put this inside of some PHP, and we're going to say, actually in the API we're going to have to write something, so hang on one second, I gotta remove my password. Okay, so this is the api.php file, as you know, and we'll go ahead and take a look. So we have this get, which will give it to you based on the UUID, and we're gonna write a couple of different things in here. We're gonna write one that's get bans, and all that's gonna do is it's gonna return the bans unfiltered, because we want to be able to access all of the bans at once so we can put them into a table. So this is just going to give us everything from the bans. So in here, we can say $bans is equal to get bans. And since we required the api.php file, it will know to use the get bans function, which is right there. So now we have access to this. You could use a bunch of echo statements to write out the table row, but I actually prefer to use broken PHP lines. So I'm going to show you how I like to do it. We're going to say for each $ban bans as ban, or no, I'm sorry, that's not how it works. It's going to be while $ban is equal to bans, and what does this do? It does fetch associative. What is it? Hang on one second. Alright, we want to remove this fetch associative there, and we want to put it there. Because what it's going to do is, it's going to go through each of the different bans, and it's going to assign ban to it. So it's going to, fetch associative returns an array for each result. So if there are 10 results, this while loop will run 10 times. And we're going to break the while loop, so I'm going to stick my opening curly brace right there. And then down here, I'm going to make another PHP, and that's where I'm going to end it. And we just want to undo whatever PHP Storm thought it was doing to help. And now we can put plain old HTML right in here, and it'll run inside the loop. And I think that that's a pretty neat feature of PHP, that you can kind of break it up like that. So first of all, we're obviously going to have the table row. Then we're going to have, the first thing is going to be a link. And it's going to be the ID. So it's going to be ban.php ID equals, and we can even put PHP right in there. You'll notice how it's inside of a string. It's inside of those double quotes, but yet it still works. And we just want to echo ban, and the index is going to be ID because this is the ID. And then in between here, we're going to do the exact same thing again. We're going to echo the ID. So there we go. That is the first part. Now the next line is going to be the UUID. So again, we're just going to say echo ban UUID. And then again, we're going to echo ban at date. And then finally, we're just going to echo ban reason. And I think that this looks a little bit nicer than using a bunch of echoes, because this is still plain HTML, but it has some PHP sprinkled in there. And it's just a little bit nicer than, you know, treating it like strings and printing it out. That's what I prefer. So we can delete these example lines because this should work just fine. Now, obviously, we need to insert a couple of example values to make sure that it works. So I'm going to quickly just do a couple of add calls, just, you know, to make sure that it's working. And then I'm going to delete these because we obviously don't want it to add a bunch of things every time the page loads. The reason is going to be advertising. Then we'll have another person. 192 and they did liking C#. Probably shouldn't hate on C#, but I don't know. And then we'll just do one more. It's this, and they what did they do wrong? They attempted to hack using magic. That's definitely not good. So I'm going to quickly type in my password and then open up the page. It should add these three things, and if that code is right, which it's rarely ever right on the first try, but we'll see. If it is right, then it will run and it'll display these three things how we want it to. So we'll take a look in 1 second. Alright, awesome. So I just reloaded the page. I typed in my password and reloaded, and you'll see the IDs 1, 2, and 3, the UUIDs, the date, and it does display correctly, 1/20/2015, and then it says, you know, 20 hours, 55 minutes, and 14 seconds, which is correct, and it even has the reasons. So if we take a look back here, we'll see that these three adds that we had did work. If I reload it again, it'll add them more, and you can notice that the ID even increases correctly. So everything there is working just great, and I believe that that's all we need to do for the index. I'm going to delete these adds because we don't need them anymore, and I'm going to quickly remove my password so I don't forget. So the index page is finished. It now correctly, well, it did display all of the information. So we're going to take almost the same thing here, and we're going to put it into our ban. We're going to retrieve information about this one particular ban and put it in here. So this is going to look very similar. We're going to do it down here. Or actually, because we need to know the ID, we'll just do it up here. The first thing we need to do is we need to require, if I can type that right, the API/API.php. So we need to make sure that we have that file, and then we'll say ban is equal to get, and we need to write one get by ID, and the ID will be the get variable of ID. Remember, the get variable is in the URL, so it's going to be, like we said, in the index. Right here, ban.php, question mark ID is equal to, and then whatever the ID is. So we're going to do that, and we'll just quickly write. It's going to be pretty much the same thing, but it's going to be called get by ID. Because we need to be able to get it either way. Select star from bands where ID is equal to ID, and we don't need to put it in quotes because it's just a number. And good, so now we can do that. So it's going to be ban number, and we're going to sneak our PHP in there. We're going to echo ban at index ID. Again, here we're going to need this one part a few times, so I'm going to copy it. Instead of ID being 1, it's going to be whatever the ID is. Instead of deleting ID 1, it's going to be whatever the ID is. So for the edit and delete, it will take into account the correct ID. Now down here, we're going to echo out the ban at index UUID. Here we're going to echo it out for date, and here we're going to echo it out for reason. And I believe that that's all we need to do here. Let's go ahead, let me just type in my password, and we'll take a look. Alright, so we're back at our menu, and we can see all this information. Let's go ahead and click on ID 1. It'll say ban number 1, has the UUID, the date, and the reason, all very well. Let's click on number 2, and that works. Number 5 is also fine, and number 6 looks good. So it's clearly reading in the information. I'll admit it's not the nicest looking page. It's a little bit plain. If you guys can think of anything else to add here, let me know. But the PHP is obviously working. It's taking the correct ID. It's taking the correct UUID, the date, and the reason. It's doing pretty much the same thing, but instead of getting a bunch of bands and putting them in a table, it's getting information about one band and putting it into a little table. If I click on delete, well, that's not found, and we'll fix that. I believe it's in the API folder. I don't think it's called delete band, so we'll fix that. If I click on edit, we obviously haven't written the code for this yet, but it will edit and it'll pull in the information and stick it there. So, okay. Cool. So now we have that done. Next part is going to be the add/edit ban, which will require a little bit more PHP work. So hang on one second. The password is gone. Once I do files in PHP, I'll just have it read the password from a file, I guess, and then we won't even have to worry about any of this. But until then, I just have to do it. So we'll go ahead and open up the add ban. Actually, first I want to fix in the ban. It's not delete ban, nor is it, or it is add ban, I'm sorry. But it's not going to be delete ban. It's going to be this remove right here. And actually, this remove takes the UUID, not the ID. So we'll just have to fix that remove for a second. So this is actually going to be API/remove.php. So let's just really quickly fix remove, because remove is either going to have a key or a UUID. So we're going to say if is set post UUID, then we're going to remove it as the UUID. Otherwise, if the get argument called ID is set, we're going to remove, if I could spell right, by ID of whatever the ID is in get. And let's just quickly fix that. Remove underscore by ID, and it'll take ID. And we're going to delete from it where ID is equal to ID. So now we have that ability. So it's going to say if we do have the post argument UUID, we're going to remove by that. Otherwise, if we have the get argument ID, we'll remove it by the ID. So either way, remove.php will work with either one. Now we need to go take a look at add. So we're here in this add ban. We need to see whether or not we're going to fill in the information. First, let's just quickly remove the date. I don't think we need that. We're just going to let it set the date automatically. I don't think it's worth worrying about that, though. So, okay. We're going to set, this is the method of post, and we're going to set the action to be API/add.php. So when I hit that submit button, it's going to submit UUID and reason to this add.php script. And this add.php script will handle it. Now the problem is the script is only set up to add information. So we need to make it work if the information is already there. And that's what we will do. So we're going to say, we first want to try getting. So we're going to say if get for, not get, for the post argument UUID, and remember this is going to be an array, so we're going to say, we're going to use count of that is greater than 0. So we're calling this get function for the UUID, so it's going to return all of the bands for that UUID. And what we're saying is, right here, what we're saying is if the count of the bands is greater than 0, that means that they have a ban in there right now. So we need to update it instead. Remember, this is going to be inside of an else. So if it's less than 0, they don't already have a ban. So we're just going to add it new. But here, we actually need to update it. And let's see, in order to do that, we are going to have one other thing. Input type equals hidden, name equals ID. This is going to be a hidden input, which means that the user does not see it, but when I submit the form, it will be seen. And if we're editing a ban, we need to know the ID of the ban so we know exactly which one to edit. So at this point, we're going to say if we need to edit, then we're going to need to know the ID of the ban. And that means that it's not going to be a new ban. So we will go ahead and do an edit. So we're going to say update. We're going to make an update function that will take in the post argument of ID, then the UUID, then the reason. And let's just go ahead and write that. So we'll just put that right under add function update, and this is going to have the ID, and this is going to say update bands. Let's get rid of this. Set UUID equal to UUID and reason equal to reason where ID is equal to ID. So that will update it instead of adding a new value to it. And then we'll just go ahead and add that PHP there. Now the last thing is, when this runs and I hit submit, it's going to take us to this add. The add is going to run, and then it's just going to be a blank page, which is kind of weird. So what we want to do is we want to add one thing. We want to say header location index.php. So that will be a header. It'll take us back to the index, and I believe that should work. We'll just make sure, of course. Now, before we continue, we need to see if they are editing a ban, which means that if we have this ID set, then we are going to do something about it. We're going to fill in the information. So we're going to go ahead and say, of course, we need to require the API.php. And we're going to say ban is equal to get by ID, or I'm sorry, we're going to say it's going to be if is set get ID, So if the get argument ID is set, then this ban is going to be equal to, we're going to actually get it. If it's not set, so if this is a new ban, then we're going to initialize this to be an array, and we're going to set it up as if it were a ban. So what information does a ban have? It has the ID, which is nothing. It doesn't have one. UUID, which is nothing. The date, which is nothing. Not just empty string. We're not going to use null, though. And finally, the reason, which again is nothing. And the reason why we're doing this is because I can now refer to ban, and I can safely refer to the indices ID, UUID, date, and reason, and I'll know that either it'll have something or it'll just be empty if there is no ban. Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say the value of UUID is equal to, and I'm going to echo out ban at index UUID. I think that should work, yeah. Because what this is going to do is if there is a ban, then it'll, have the index of UUID. If there isn't, it'll just be an empty string, so that will remain blank like it should. And we're going to do the same thing here. So the value is going to be at index reason. It's either going to be nothing or an actual reason. Then here again it's going to be ID, which might be blank or it might not be. And then just submit. And I guess the date doesn't really matter, but we're going to leave it there. So now it will fill this up with information if needed, and when it sends it to add, it will know what to do. So let's see if this actually works. Let me just type in my password. Okay. Reload the home page, and the password is typed in correctly. Let's go ahead and hit plus first and make sure. Okay. No errors, which is good. You could sometimes get an error if you're trying to use an undefined index or anything, but no. You can see that UUID and reason are both blank. Let's go to ID 1 and hit edit. You'll see it fills in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in advertising, which it got from here. Now we're going to try adding a new ban and editing a recent already done ban, I should say. So let's first try adding one. I hit the add button. There's no given ID, so this should just add it, treat it like a new entry. This is going to be ID 999, and the reason is going to be because I felt like it. Let's hit submit and see if it works. Alright, incorrect key. That's right, it doesn't have a key. We'll worry about the encryption. We might do a login system later, or, we'll figure it out. But let's just quickly take a look. I'm not going to open up that file, but we'll take a look and add, and I'm just going to comment out this line just for now. We want to upload these 3 files, and so now it won't die if the key is wrong, because obviously we don't have the key set. Now if I hit submit, okay, that's what I thought. So it was able to run correctly, and then it tried going to the index.php. That would be right here. So I wonder if that would work. I'm not sure. Oh, it did. Okay. So the ... just means go, like we were in the API directory, go up one directory to here, and then find the index.php. So that did work. And you'll see it added an ID of 7, UUID of 999. The date is right now, which is different than all of these other dates, as you can see. And because I felt like it is the reason, I can click on it and see it, so it's clearly a legitimate ban in the database. Let's go ahead and change this, because that's not a very good reason. The reason really should be for a good reason. If I hit submit, see if this will even work. Okay, it didn't. It set the UUID to be 0. It kept the date, and it did not change the reason. So we're going to have to take a look at this. Hang on one second. So let's take a look and see if we can figure out why this was happening. Alright. You know what? I think no, you know what? That would not be a problem. So let's go take a look in the API right here. and we are doing update. So in the add, it will either update or add, and it obviously added, which means it checked this and it got here. So it updated with the post arguments ID, UUID, and reason. Those are all given correctly, as long as where are we looking? As long as this is named ID, yeah, these are all given correctly. So let's take a look at update. Update ban set UUID, ID and reason equal to reason, where ID is equal to ID. That is strange. It did set the UUID to be 0, and it did not change the reason. Let me take a look at this. Hang on. Right, so it turns out that the issue was a little syntax with the MySQL. It's not supposed to be an and, it's supposed to be a comma. That is why it was not working. So I replaced the and with a comma. I did do some kind of debugging before I was able to figure that out and test it. And also I changed this, instead of getting and checking the count, it's easier to just see if the post argument of ID is set, because if it is set, then we can assume that we're updating if we already have an ID. If not, we're going to be adding. So that avoids one database call, and it makes a little bit more sense if you're looking at it than getting the count of the get function for the ID and seeing if it's greater than 0. So it definitely just makes more sense to do that. Let me just quickly add in my password, and then we'll take a look, and I think we should be finished. So we're on the website, and we see that we have the ID number 7. The UUID was set to 0 because I made the syntax wrong, and the reason wasn't changed. It still says because I said so. So we'll go ahead and click on it, hit edit, and we see the values are filled in. I'm going to change 0 to 999, and I'm going to change because I said so to a good reason. Now notice that the ID, we don't see it. It's a hidden field. It's still there, and it's still going to be submitted, of course, so that it knows which ID to update, but we just don't see it. We don't have to worry about it. We don't have to wonder why the number 7 is a field, and we don't have to worry about accidentally changing it or anything like that. It's just a hidden, a hidden field. Let's go ahead and hit submit, and you'll see it does in fact say 999 and a good reason, and that worked. So what just happened there is we went over to the add, where we were in add ban. We hit the submit button, and it wrapped up UUID, reason, and ID, and it submitted it to this add page. It then figured out, since we gave it an ID, we're most likely going to be updating something, called the update function, which did the updating, and then it got us to the header of the index page, and we can see that it did update the UUID and the reason. So that is all for this video. The website is now functioning with a PHP backend, so it will now connect to the database and display actual information instead of just test information. So this website is now a functioning website that is database backed. So we will look at doing a couple of other things with the website before it is finished. We might do a couple of things like redesigning the editing. We don't really need to edit the UUID because you're not going to reassign a ban to a different person, and I probably shouldn't have included that in the first place. The only thing that you really need to edit is the reason, so maybe we'll look at using a modal for editing the reason. It makes a little bit more sense than kicking them to another page to have them do it, and it also makes the code a little bit simpler. So we might end up switching over to that. That would be nice. And an account system we will do with, staff accounts and regular accounts. We could probably do some sort of a verification with Bucket, where you go into Bucket and you run a command with a special ID that you get from the website, and then it'll link your Minecraft account with your BanManagement account, so that would be kind of cool. We could also do retrieving the name given the UUID, so we could add a name field here, and with that we could also retrieve the skin given the name, so you can have a little player head next to the name. So these are all cool things that we could do with BanManagement, and of course we can't forget about the bucket plugin side. We need to now have it communicate with the web server, which we can do since we have our API ready and working. So that's probably what we're going to do next. And then we'll make the website a bit nicer, and I think that would be pretty good for this series. So as always, subscribe if you want to see more. Comment with what you want to learn. If you like this video, click the like button. Sorry for this video being so long. I wanted to get everything done. But thanks so much for watching. See you guys soon. Bye.